YouTube channel and to the East Coast Keto Test Kitchen. I'm Bobbi.
I'm Geoff.
And together,
we are
East Coast Keto. We're going to do some carrot cake today.
This was incredibly popular when you came up with it.
It's so incredibly popular.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyone that knows my history, you know, years ago, pre-keto, I worked in actually the Avalon Mall right here in St. John's, and there was a little coffee shop that did the most amazing little individual single. They were probably, truth be told, they were probably something that should have been shared, but if I was having a bad day, I would sneak away and I would go down and have a coffee and just take a 5-minute break. Carrot cake made it all go away. So you can still have your carrot cake and be keto.
Now, maybe we should clarify, because one of the things that people say when you're on a ketogenic diet is you can't have carrots.
Carrots are okay in moderation, especially if you're fat adapted. I mean, if you're not fat adapted and you're brand new, I'm going to caution you on using, you know, like stuff like your almond flour and your coconut flour, just because they are quite carby. And not only that, they can sit really heavy in your belly. So if you're doing the fathead pizzas or doing a lot of bacon desserts, you know, you might want to
starting out.
You might want to wait and do that after you're fat adapted, because at the end of the day, really all you're doing is just replacing one thing with another, and you need to let your body detox and learn what it wants to do. Get all the crap out, exactly. So, but once you're fat adapted, you know, carrots in moderation are no problem at all. Now, if you look at the carrot cake that we're gonna do,
it's a big carrot cake, and there are 3 small carrots.
Exactly. So what, 8 servings, 10 servings?
8, 10, 12 even.
You know, depends. So it depends on how big you cut it, obviously. But if you take those carrots and you divide it 12 ways.
Yeah. I mean, there's 3, so 12 ways, that would be in 4 pieces. So you're looking at about that much, which is, here we got somewhere around 6 ounces once we cut we're going to shred it up. So once we cut the ends off and
cut to something. So we're gonna grate up our carrots. We got some eggs. We have some baking soda and some creme de tartare. Now a lot of people don't realize that if you're baking and you're using baking powder, grab it out of the cupboard and look at the ingredients that are on the back, because I can promise you 9 times out of 10,
if it's the magic, there's
going to be starch in there. So the baking soda and the creme de tartare are the 2 other ingredients that we can have in baking powder. We've also got some whipping cream. There is our coconut flour and our swerve. We got some spices, vanilla, of course our almond powder. We have the whipping cream, of course, which is there. And what else do we have? We have a little bit of psyllium husk there as well. Which, if you're a person who used to take Metamucil, if you're still taking it, stop, for God's sake, because that's full of all kinds of uglies and sweets that you shouldn't be having. But the psyllium husk, and we buy it at the bulk barn. The psyllium husk, the ingredient that's in the Metamucil, that you need is this stuff. That is this stuff. So if you go to the bulk barn and buy this, now you don't have to make a drink about it, because you've been your whole life, you know, drinking up the orange cocktail. Just take it and add it to your food, you know, add it to your plate, or put it in your gravy or whatever, and you're gonna get your fiber fix that way. Anyway, let's go finish prepping, and
then we get to bacon.
Bacon or baking?
Baking. No, we did bacon this morning, so
we're good on bacon. Anyway, we'll be back. Come join us, and we'll make some carrot cake.
It's gonna be awesome.
Bye.
Welcome back.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
Carrot cake.
Carrot cake.
Yay! I'm having carrot cake tonight. Let us get started. So this recipe is kind of easy breezy. There's none of the mixing, draw, or making molds and
throw it all in.
Throw it all in, exactly. So we're going to start off with the wet ingredients, which the carrot is considered.
Yeah. I mean, those 3 carrots ended up being probably 2 cups.
This much. So we're going to put in our carrots. And you know what? Are they really a wet ingredient? Well, they're certainly not dry, are they?
They were pretty moist.
We also have coconut. We have, what's my amount there? 3/4 cup of Oh, I got it wrong. Hang on.
Coconut is.
Shredded coconut. 3/4 cup of shredded coconut.
What do you have?
All the way to the birdie boiler. Next we have the whipping cream, and the whipping cream is 3/4 cup of that as well, or you can use coconut milk if you prefer. We do have coconut milk, but we just preferred the
Whipping cream.
whipping cream. Just in case you don't want to have that more of a coconutty taste. We've already got the coconut in there.
It's carrot cake, not coconut cake.
Right. We have, I'm going to pull this over now for that little guy. There we go. We have 6 eggs, which I'm going to add in right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Easy breezy.
Easy breezy. And last but not least, we have 1/4 cup of oil. Now I'm using avocado oil. You can use coconut. You can use avocado. You can use extra virgin olive oil. You can use any of the keto friendly.
You can use bacon fat.
Well,
It'll change the taste for sure.
you don't really want anything that's going to go to a solid state. So like the bacon fat or the lard, as much as they're healthy fats, you kind of don't want your cake to go. All right, so I got all those guys in there. Oops.
Your bum is trying to turn on the stove.
My bum is turning on the stove.
It's a good thing it's locked.
Alrighty, so I'm going to put that on the low setting. And I'm going to give that a mix for a minute, and we'll be back. Alright, that's fully incorporated. Now, one of the things that you need to kind of know about when you're doing a carrot cake or anything like this is if you're, like the pieces of carrot that we spread were around this big. So if you look down into our bowl right now, you'll see some of the strands of carrot are wrapped around the
tines of the mixer.
The arms, the legs, so that's totally fine. What I usually do on the end is I'll just use my little spatula here and I'll scrape them off, give it one little stir to incorporate. Okay, so we're gonna mix it right in the bowl today. So the next thing I'm gonna put in is 1 cup of almond flour. And I'm just gonna add this a little bit at a time. I'm on setting 2.
Which would still be low.
Which would still be low, yeah. So why don't we switch to a closer view so you guys can see what's going on in the bowl. Okay, so next going up is going to be our coconut flour. Hippity hop. And next we have some confectioner's swerve. You can use any keto-friendly sweetener for this. Swerve is just our preference.
How much you got there?
This is a cup. Is it a cup? It is half cup. And again, sweeten the taste. If you were, preferring something a little more sweet, you have something a little more sweet. Next, we have our psyllium husk, which is the stuff that we were showing you guys earlier, which was the Metamucil. So we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of that guy right there. We also have baking soda. So we have 2 teaspoons of baking soda. 1, 2. There you go. Next is our cream de tartare, or cream of tartare. And with that there, we are going to use a half a teaspoon. Don't put a half a cup of this in. You won't like it, I promise you.
So the half teaspoon and teaspoon of baking soda equates to.
No, we have 2 teaspoons and a half.
Gotcha.
Ordinarily you'd go half and half, but 1 full teaspoon of the cream de tartare. If you use too much, it gives it a little slightly acidic taste, and we don't want any acidic taste in our cake. So the recipe here calls for a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna eyeball it and adjust the taste later on, because that's the way I roll here in the kitchen. 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Don't try to put sticks in there. So there's 1. There's 2. Hey, your flavor is starting to build. Yummy. 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. I think I have around about a teaspoon there, so we're gonna call that good to go. When I turn off, we'll see if we got another little bit there somewhere along the lines. We have a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now if you have fresh nutmeg, grate it right in there. This stuff is liquid gold. I'm gonna sneak another little bit in there just because I love it. And that is about it. Oh, we need some cardamom. We have a 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom. Now cardamom, if you're a fan of Indian food, you're going to find it in a lot of spices. I always related to that. I remember the sense we used to get when we were younger. I didn't like them at the time, but I like cardamom. And last but not least, there is a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm just going to eyeball that as well. There you go. So I am going to turn up the mixer. I didn't want to turn it up while we were adding ingredients because you couldn't really hear what I was saying at that point. I will turn it up, give it a good mix, and next we're off to the oven. I think we're all mixed up.
Is that a good thing? No, you are.
So I'm going to get those legs, those carrot legs off of the mixer. Perfect. Put that aside.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to take some butter.
And grease our pan.
And grease our pan.
Alrighty, so I'm just going to give this one last,
Honest to God.
was that an egg?
No, it wasn't an egg this time.
I'm going to give this one last little shiver, as we call it, to get it all mixed up. Because we had those pieces of carrot that were, where'd you going all caveman style there? Done with the butter, young fella?
I am.
Perfect. That knife was
Fixing
on the
your
floor, wasn't it?
No, it was a spoon, a measuring spoon.
The spoon. Is it a spoon or a spoon?
Depends on what part of the island you're from, I suppose.
Perfect. Let me get you a piece of paper towel. Because I'm going to get you to go right in and get that thing out. There you go. Perfect. So when you just disregard any extra in there.
That's good.
There you go. Give it a little wipe, and then we're going to get you to release that guy right there for us.
There you go.
Perfect. Throw it in. Give it a go. Now, the recipe online calls for walnuts. We're just choosing not to use walnuts today. No particular reason, just we're not in the mood for all the walnuts.
What about if we're in the mood for walnuts tomorrow? Sprinkle some on top.
Then you can do your very own.
Alright, so we're getting close. See, I'm not normally the one that does this.
Do you want me to get in there? Get out the way, my son.
No, I got it.
Oh,
Sweet adorable. There's gonna be a racket.
come on, my son. Just get it done, will you? Our grandmothers are looking down at us going,
What's your expression? Like a cat pawing at a piece of shit. Oh my.
are you done yet?
Done enough.
Alright. Let's just lay
Now,
this aside.
we'd be
yeah?
some boys and girls if we had the oven preheated.
Look at the stuff that's in there. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to take our spatula and kind of half form the cake a little bit. Because it doesn't have the gluten, it doesn't rise the same way. You kind of try to pull it away from the sides just a little tiny bit to start off the... And with that, we're going to put this in our heated oven. I believe the oven for the people in Ottawa
400?
is 400, and we'll put
Then
it
you
in.
drop it back to 350.
Yes, you put it in for 400 for 10 minutes. And after the 10 minutes, you're going to decrease the temperature to 350. That's going to give you a nice crust. And when you drop the temperature back down, it's going to allow the inside of the cake cook. That's going to be lovely. Anyway, we'll talk to you when it's time to pull the cake out of the oven.
Timer just went off. We're good to check. So this was in there for, after we dropped the temperature, it was in for probably around 40 minutes or so. And out she comes. looks perfect.
Perfect. Let me see if I can come in close on you now. All right, perfect. So we can see. So what are you doing with this knife here now?
Most people call it a toothpick test, and in this case I'm just using a knife, and we're checking to see if any batter sticks to the blade. It doesn't.
Nice and dry.
Nice and dry, although hopefully the cake itself is not nice and dry, but the toothpick test is a success.
Success. I mean, just cooked.
She's done.
Alrighty, so we're going to leave it in the pan for around 5 minutes before we try to take it out.
Yep.
At which time we are going to put a plate over the top of it. And we're going to flip the two of them as a unit, and we will come back and do some icing for you.
Alright. See you in a bit.
It's been around 5 minutes.
She looks lovely.
Do you wanna risk it?
Alright. Hopefully I buttered it right.
Well, if you didn't butter it, so this is the secret here. So you put it on upside down like that, and then you take two of it combined as one unit, turn it upside down, and hopefully you're gonna hear that little clip
boom as it drops. And
look at that. That is friggin' perfect. And I don't know if you
the steam still.
I don't know if you can see the steam coming up, but that is pure flavor. So let's just set this aside and let this continue to cool. We're certainly not going to ice that until we're not going to try it until it's iced, and we're not going to ice it until it's cool. So maybe we'll take it and let it sit there. In the meantime, let's work on the icing. So we have some cream cheese here. Fingers are clean.
Which has been out for a couple of hours.
You want it room temperature?
You
there we go. Yeah, well, I'm going to use this guy anyway. So, oops, I have 12 ounces of the cream cheese. We also have a quarter cup of whipping cream. That's going to go in there. Now, for any of you guys that have talked to me online about fluff, this is very similar to our fluff recipe. So if you're interested, this is how we do it. It isn't on the recipe, but I'll always put a little tiny bit of salt in there just to increase the flavor. We have a quarter cup of butter. Now make sure you're not using margarine, guys. We should all be at the stage now where we know that margarine is not our friend.
I'm hoping everyone on the group knows the difference.
Right? And a teaspoon of vanilla. You know I'm gonna eyeball it. Here we go. And I'm actually gonna put
that wasn't a teaspoon.
I'm gonna put in a little bit extra because I like that flavor of the vanilla there. And the last thing that I'm gonna add in is a half a cup of swerve.
Yep. Now we keep this.
Hey,
we have cats.
Hey,
we keep this in the cupboard. We can't find, or it's harder to find the confectioner's swerve. The purple. Yes, use your words.
Use your words.
It's hard to find the confectioner's swerve, and it's a little more expensive. So we find the granulated stuff, whiz it up in the bullet, and keep it in the cupboard.
I thought you were going to keep smacking his bone because when you were going, this is what you were doing. It was like, okay, either he was bad or you're burping him or... All right.
I gotta put up with.
I'm not going to subject you guys to the sounds that the food processor is going to make here. So we are going to turn that on. We're going to whip it. Now you don't want to whip it for too long because I don't know if you guys know it or not, but whipping cream, if you whip it and whip it and whip it and
got butter.
And whip it good, you're going to turn it into butter. So just keep an eye on it and make sure, you know, once everything's all incorporated together, take it out and let it sit. From there, we're going to take it and put it in the fridge and cool it back down again. And she's going on for icing.
Yeah.
Then we get the taste test.
Ooh.
Be back soon. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Always.
Come on, we goes. So we got some lovely buttercream icing here. It's nice and light and fluffy. And I've got an offset spatula. Now, don't try to use a butter knife. Don't try to use a great big spatula like one of these guys here. This is the right tool to do it. If I were using a bigger cake, I would use a bigger spatula, but because I got this little tiny guy here today,
He's only a little baby.
He's only a baby. So the best way to do this is to slobber the icing right, and I mean slobber it, look, right on top. And ordinarily when you're icing a cake, you'd go through and you'd put a crumb layer on. which is what keeps the crumbs in, and then you would take it and put it in the fridge, let it sit up.
Crumbs are not keto.
Crumbs are, well, these crumbs are keto.
Yes.
And from there, once the icing was set up a little bit, you would go ahead and put the extra icing on and make it look nice and fluffy and whatnot. So I'm going to continue to do this. Why don't we come back when it's ready to go, when we're ready to do a taste test. Oh,
Okay.
all right.
See you back in a minute.
Bye.
That looks amazing.
Hopefully it tastes amazing too.
I'm sure it will.
We shall see. Okay, so we got it all iced. One of the last things I do before I finish the cake, or I guess the last thing I do before I finish the cake, is I'll take the little spatula and kind of put it down and kind of smoosh it around a little bit and try to raise up some of the pieces of icing.
Like peaks, kind of like you
Almost
have
like
on
little
a
peaks
meringue.
on a meringue, exactly. Because like when you're looking at a carrot cake like this, you want it to be rustic looking, and you don't want it to be all smooth.
Yeah.
And you can do it smooth if you want, but now if I was doing this for company, we would have taken a little bit more time and
Made it more perfect,
Yeah.
and maybe made some of the little carrots.
Totally.
The orange tinted.
with the little green leaves.
Right.
But for our purposes today and for you guys,
Yeah.
we're best
You don't
on.
need to.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna get you to do the cut just because you got a knife there that's bigger than I am. So one of the tricks that I found a long time ago for cutting cake is to cut 3 pieces. I don't know if you're...
Mm-hmm. There you go. And what that does
That's
is
2 pieces.
3 cuts.
3 pieces!
It was only 2 of us.
So what happens is you get to choose the middle piece here, and it's already loosened up on both sides, so that piece is going to come out absolutely perfect for you now. So I'm going to turn that around so you guys can see what we got done. So we have 1, 2, 3 individual pieces now, so that means that this one right here in the very middle is going to come out absolutely perfect for Jeff, and it's not going to crumble, and look at that. Look
Whoa.
at that. Now, consistency is different than what a pre-keto cake would be. And depending on how much sweeteners you added, your sugar level or your sweetener level may or may not be
Depends
as...
on your taste.
We,
But yeah, look at that.
we're at the stage now where we try to keep our sweetener level down. So, there are a lot of people who would try this recipe just after starting keto and think it's not sweet enough just because they're used to full octane.
And this can be carby. I mean, the flour substitutes that we use
I'm going for
as keto still have carbs. And a lot of people that think they're stalled in this goat meal, is it? You booger, you're not going to let me taste it.
I got them.
Oh.
I even had that tucked away down there. You have icing on your nose, so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there is our keto cake.
Oh my. Sweet, adorable in the garden. Does weird. Good job.
Awesome.
Again.
Anyway, we'll let you finish that off.
Okay.
And we'll see you guys back
Next time.
next time for another video. Hope you enjoyed this one. Before you head off, we're going to get you to hit that subscribe button down below.
Yeah.
And if you ring the bell alongside of it, what will happen is the system will notify you anytime we post up a new video.
Boom.
You're going to be up to date.
Yeah.
Anyway, happy cheesecake or carrot cake day.
Bye, folks.
Bye.